So hi everyone, if you're coming, it's good to see you. I see some names from last time. So I hope you've had a good first seminar. So just to check, this is a seminar where Ruth and I are going to introduce, it's going to be kind of a really practical seminar. We're going to introduce Parenting for Faith, Babies and Toddlers resources, and we are going to just talk a little bit about how we think they could be used. And then Ruth, who's actually run a group with them, use them in her church, is going to be just giving us the lowdown on what worked for her and a chance to answer any questions. If you've got any questions you'd love to have answered in this seminar, do stick them in the chat and we will do our very best to get there. And we'll just wait a few more minutes. You could also put in the chat where you're from, if you don't feel you've already done that. So, but any questions, you know that are burning questions for you about the resources, stick it in the chat, or if something comes up as we're talking, pop that in as well, and shout if we don't answer the questions and we'll get there as soon as possible. So it looks like there's still 26 unassigned participants, my special host status tells me, so we'll just hang on a few more minutes in case. I guess that might be people grabbing their coffee, dealing with their children. If it looks a bit strange where I am, it's because but I live in a very busy household, and so I've retreated to kind of a glorified garden shed because it is literally the only place in my house where I won't be interrupted, although it's really noisy because we've had rain and the birds have all come out, and so you're not going to hear raindrops, but you'll probably hear quite a lot of bird song, which I realise is quite a nice sound, but maybe irritating halfway through. Yeah, the birds.
At one point, I thought there were owls. I could hear like honest twit-to-wooing.
No, they're mostly sparrows, and some of them have been creating baby sparrows in front of my very eyes, which was a bit bizarre. Yeah, they're very happy the rain stopped. I've also got my dog with me, who hopefully won't bark, but we'll see. So, welcome. So this is the seminar on really practical stuff, the babies and toddlers resources, what they look like. We'll be giving you a little look at one of the videos and to just give you some ideas about how you can use them in your church. So about 2 or 3 years ago, Rachel started writing this book. Some of you will have seen it, I'm sure. It's our babies and toddlers book. We're going to talk about that a bit more. But as part of the research, we came across something called the Talking Toddlers Research. And I'm not sure whether you've seen it, but it was really helpful and inspiring. And I'm going to share my screen and show a little PowerPoint now, just about some of the top things that, hang on, my daughter is coming over right now. And I'll just send her away. So I'm going to share my screen. And I've got a PowerPoint here. So I hope you can see this. Can you see that, everyone? And slideshow from the beginning. So can you see that okay? Yes, brilliant. Okay, so Talking Toddlers research was 1,182 parents were surveyed in Great Britain in February 2020, just before lockdown. So life was, we thought, normal. Do you remember that feeling when life was normal before the pandemic and we were thinking, this will never happen here? And it discovered statistics of 74% of all families of noughts to fours, not just church families, all families of noughts to fours in Great Britain were in contact with church. And an astonishing, if you took out the 12% who were practicing Christians, that meant that 62% of all fringe families are in contact with church. And that's an astonishing figure. And I think probably you with your babies and toddlers heads on, were not unaware of the reach of your toddler groups into the community. But that is confirmation that through your hard work and your dreams and your planning and your setting out of endless chairs and toys and drinks and everything, you are reaching an astonishing 62% of the fringe families in the UK. Some of that contact was through things like Messy Church. Some of it was special Sundays and holiday clubs, but the majority of it was through the everyday bread and butter toddler groups that we all are running or have been part of in the past. But there's a really interesting statistic now, and it is, well, that's really not helpful for me to do that there's a reason why these people come, and it's not necessarily the reasons that you think. This is the second slide. It's taken from the Talking Toddlers research, and I've put a link down at the bottom. It's really worth looking up if you've not discovered it. It's very enlightening and very encouraging. And a huge percentage of people thought that their child would enjoy it. Oh, I think the definition of fringe families were people who didn't say they were Christians who regularly attended church. So it was kind of just your casual attenders or your community members. So I've underlined some of them. So 29% want their child to learn good values, 18% want their child to be familiar with the church, 16% an awareness of God, 12% some Christian knowledge, and 9% want their child to learn Bible stories. And remember, this is of the fringe parents, so these aren't your committed Christian parents. And there seems to be, certainly for me, it was maybe confirmation of what I knew subconsciously, but we're in this situation where people come not just because it's the best toddler group in town, or you have the best drinks, or it's on the way home from school, or it's on the right day. They come because there's something about church that draws them in. And there's a really other interesting note from there, was that they looked at how open these parents were to exploring faith, and they discovered that it was parents of noughts to ones who were most interested in exploring faith. And I think that's probably got something to do with when you have a new baby, there is something aspirational in your hopes for them. You want them to have the best of everything. And for many people, there's a draw to church. And it might be you see it and they come for their dedication or their Thanksgiving or their baptism, even though they don't regularly come to church. They get drawn into, and I have a sense that for a lot of people, they have a sense that church is good. There's something good here, and they want good things for their children. So they are drawn to church. And I don't think that's such a surprise to you. I remember I was a children and families worker before I did this job, and so obviously had I was 10 years, so did lots of toddler group activities, lots of preschool stuff, and I really struggled. This was before Parenting Faith had come out with anything toddlers. I knew that I wanted my parents who came to glimpse Jesus, to know we weren't just doing this because we loved them. We wanted them to have the best, and for us the best is God. And I found that really hard. And for me, parents seem to fall into three categories, or maybe four, no, three categories. So I'll share with you a tiny scrap about three families. So one family was Andy and Jess, and they were new to faith and they had a new baby, and they wanted to pass on this faith to their child, and they didn't know how, so they came to the church activities. So there they were, wanting to disciple this tiny bundle, but really having no ideas. And then there was Kate, and I think we all got Kates in our groups. Kate has got three children. The oldest is now 13, the youngest is now 6, but all three of her children were baptized where an Anglican church was baptized at church, and all three of them came to literally everything. There was no glimmer of a transfer of faith. They didn't come to church. They might rock up at Christmas, but they came to literally everything we laid on for their children as they became older, for their children's groups. And again, there was this sense that they knew there was something good for here. We didn't run always the best groups in town, but whenever we ran a group, they would rock up. And thirdly, there was Bryony. And Bryony, I grew up with Bryony, or grew up in the church with Bryony. And she was a committed Christian as a young person. But she had a very, very bad experience of church, an abusive relationship with church when she went to university. And she walked away from faith, and she was adamant this was not for her. She was angry and hurt. But she had her first child, and Bryony came to the church toddler group because, again, she said later there was something in there that, however angry she was, she had this baby and she wanted the best for him. And as she came back to church, and through toddler group, she softened and refound her own faith. So we have these people in our groups, and I don't know what your experience is. I've just been in the Refresh seminar with Caroline, and I have to say I wish that I'd heard that when I was a children and families worker, because I wanted to share Jesus with these families, but I didn't really know how. So I focused on the children. We did great Bible stories with puppets and things like that, and we sang lots of Christian songs in the children's bit. But I didn't know how to really engage parents in these big conversations about faith, and their own searching and their own spirituality. So the good news is the babies and toddlers resources are literally designed for people like me, people with a big heart for the families that they serve, who want to give them the best, but we know that the best for those families isn't just community and love and a listening ear. The best for those families is to meet and know Jesus for themselves, and to meet and help their children meet and know Jesus. So I'm going to run through the resources with you, and then we're going to chat to Ruth about what using these resources actually look like in a church setting. So we start with the book. If you haven't read it already, it's a good read. It's a really good read. It's deliberately slimline. So Rachel worked out very quickly that sleep deprived parents do not want a hefty tome to read. It's very easily and nicely laid out. I don't know how much of that you can see. We've got little illustrations to break the text up, and it's based on the core principles of parenting for faith. If you're familiar with parenting for faith already, we have what we call the 5 key tools, and they are simple tools that parents can use to help their children meet to know God, based around how we share our own lives with them, how we explain things, how we introduce them to connecting to God through prayer, and how we encourage them in their spiritual development, what we spot in their spiritual development. And these key tools are all found in here. What Rachel has done is to say, what's this look like when your baby is 6 weeks old? And how do you pray with a baby who's 6 weeks old when they can't even talk? How do you explain something to a toddler who's not really ready for the big questions in life? And so she's unpicked those questions and put them into this volume. It's a deliberately light and easy read, that so it can be picked up and read in the middle of the night when you're feeding, or between getting the kids ready for school and actually leaving. You can just pick it up and read it. So we got the book, and alongside the book, Anna, who's hosting today, over lockdown recorded 5 videos which are accompaniments. They're to go alongside the book, and they're just to help you share the message of the book and the teaching tools with your families. So these are free to download and use. We try to keep our Parenting for Faith resources as accessible as possible. So I'm going to share my screen again. Let's see if I can do a bit more magic. I'm very proud of my screen sharing abilities, learned over lockdown. It'll all go badly wrong now. So if we share the screen and I go now to this one, can you see that is the home page of our website, parentingforfaith.brf.org.uk. We have a drop-down menu here, which has babies and toddlers here. Or if I go back, very much the quickest and easiest place is to go to our big babies and toddlers button here. So you click on that, and this is the introduction to the babies and toddlers area. And there's something we have called here the bite-size babies and toddlers videos. And they are called bite-size because they are bite-sized. They're short, they're very accessible. They would be suitable to be played in the break where everybody's feeding their babies in a new mums group, or as part of a discussion group, or you could package them up and send them to a new parent as a kind of MailChimp, or you could share one in a home group. They're really flexible. One of our heart's desires at Parenting for Faith is that you take the resources we produce and use them in a way that suits your church. We're not going to tell you how you have to use things. We want to invite you to have a look. How does this work for my family, my parents, and use them as you want? So there are 5. So you can see the titles there. 1, 2, 3. You can't see all of them. I'll just scroll up a little bit. So we got Getting Going. So this is kind of an introductory video to the fact that babies and toddlers have a spiritual life, which I think I was new, but kind of had to have unpacked for me. Keeping It Real. So this is helping children and just how to explain who God is to very small children. Connection and Communication is all about really prayer and communicating with God. Bible stories, very practical, how to read Bible stories and how to help babies and toddlers recognize God in those stories and to see what it has to do with them. And Chatting to God, which is how to pray. So you're very patient. I'm going to stop and share again, and I'm going to share the first couple of minutes from one of the videos so you get a taste for it. So this is the second video, and Anna's going to
When you start thinking about nurturing your little one's spiritual side, you can feel all sorts of different emotions. Maybe you're thinking about your own relationship with God and how you don't really know him or connect with him that much yet. And maybe he's a big part of your everyday life, but you're not quite sure what that looks like with a little one. Maybe you're reflecting on your own experiences of faith, good and bad, from your childhood and other things that you've seen or heard. Whether you feel confident, daunted, or anything in between, it's really important that we remember something. You are able to give your child what they need. Yep, you, exactly as you are right now, are powerful and important in your child's life. And you have everything that you need to help them to meet and know God. There are a whole host of reasons for this, and I'm going to share just a few of them with you now. Because helping your kids to meet and know God is about supporting and growing your child's faith, not about being perfect in your own. Because nobody is perfect. Despite how it may look on social media, everyone is on a journey of figuring out life with God, making mistakes, getting distracted, learning new things, and needing to ask questions. Because you are the person that God chose to be alongside your children for their faith journey. Remember, that's not because you're perfect or even because you're the best qualified. Because God trusts you with your children. He could have made it so they learned about God just from church or theologians or TV programs, but he designed it so that parents and carers at home would be the ones who got to share stories and show their children how to be with God in normal life. And finally, because God knows what parenting is like, he sees and understands sleep deprivation and feeding frustrations. He sees and understands the constant struggle to stay on top of the washing or to juggle work and childcare. Don't worry about what you can.
So you see, we've tried to make the videos as like these as possible. We've tried to use a range of images and people, so it will help. Hopefully the communities that you live in will, something in that will resonate with them. So the other thing is that we have produced to help you. So you've got these 5 videos. If you want to run them as a course or use them separately, we've created some really simple take-home sheets, which you could give out. I'm going to share my screen again. So if we go back to here, so we're going back to the bite-sized babies and toddlers page, and there are the videos. They are free to watch, and you can view them from here. But if you want to download them, that's fine too. You can do that as well, so you can keep them on your computer. Now, what we've produced, if it's helpful for you, is what we call the Babies and Toddlers Bite-Sized Session Guides. So this, again, is free on the website to download, and it is simply a leader's handbook to say, this is what we've got, this is how you might use them. So quick glimpse through here is it's got the introduction, explains how they can be used. It talks about what to think about if you're running a bite-sized session. Again, just ideas and top tips we've got from others. And then for each session, there's the little leader's guide into what happens, a suggestion to start the conversation. So just kind of a little icebreaker, a video, and most of the videos have got a pause halfway through for the people who are viewing it just to consider some ideas. So this pause and process slide, for example, in session 1, has some quotes that they ask the participants just to think about. And if it's suitable for your group, we've got a follow-up discussion questions. And again, these are just ideas just to get you started. You may want to choose something else or do something different. And then what we call next steps. If people are interested, you can point them to the book. And the book is available to buy in multi-packs at a discount from the website. And also places to look on the website. So there's a pathway for people who want to know the next thing. And then for each session, This is a takeaway sheet which you are free to photocopy or print out and share with people. And all it does is summarize the session, the things to think about, things to chat about, ideas to try, and how to find out more. And again, all these are just designed, they're light and straightforward. They don't impose a lot on people if you give them out. It's not like homework. It's more an invitation to take a bit, to discover more about who God is and how you and your child can meet and know him. A question about the Zoom. I can't remember, I'll have to have a look. I think we wrote this during the pandemic, so I suspect that we've said something. I think Ruth may have run the course on Zoom, so we'll discover a little bit more about that. But again, since the pandemic, we have been very Zoom aware when we've been writing material, so I think it probably would work. So that's a really brief tour of our babies and toddlers resources. How many sessions? There are 5 videos, so you could run it as a 5-session course, or you could just do 1 or 2 or 3, whatever you think works for you. So some people are running it as a 5-week course. So I'm going to bring Ruth in now, which is going to be interesting because now I'm told I have to spotlight her as well. So let's have a little look.
Don't think anyone needs to see my face much bigger. I think we're fine.
I'm still going to spotlight you, I'm just saying. So I'm going to pin the video to you. I believe I'm pinning it to me as well. Oh, add pin. So you should be able to see both, which is brilliant. This is Ruth. She's a great friend of Parenting for Faith. And Ruth is also the families minister at Woodlands Church, Bristol. And she was probably one of our earliest users of the babies and toddlers material. So Ruth, do you just want to introduce yourself a little bit more about your role at church?
Yeah, so I'm Ruth, and I have probably been working for churches. Actually, I realised I'm 38 years old and I have never not worked for a church. So in all of my adult life, I have been in some kind of either paid or voluntary ministry for various churches and various denominations of churches. So I currently find myself at Woodlands Church in Bristol, which is quite a large city centre independent church. Oh, you can't see anyone. I will pin myself. Hold on. How's that? Is that better? Okay.
Can people see us? Is the question.
You can. Yeah. So I currently work for Woodlands Church in Bristol, which is a large city centre independent church. And I was their children's minister for a while. Then I was their families minister. Then I was their children's minister again. And now I am, I think officially, the associate pastor with responsibility for parenting and family life. Which, yes, I know. I just call myself a families minister because I feel like that is what I am. So as part of my role, there are various things that I do. We've just relaunched a toddler group. I run a family service. I take pastoral responsibility for one of our congregations. We have 4 services running on a Sunday. So I, along with my co-worker, take responsibility for the 9:15 service, which is our service which predominantly serves those with younger children, so our families and younger children, because nobody without younger children wants to get to church for 9:15. That's all I'm going to say on that one. So, Becky, that is who I am.
So my next question is, why did you choose to use the babies and toddlers resources, and what was it about them that made you think they might work or might be appropriate, or what you were looking for your families?
Yeah, so I think throughout the pandemic, I took on the responsibility for families ministry as we came out, or as we were looking at coming out of the pandemic, and many things had not been running. In fact, nothing had been running. And I felt a real pull towards people who had under 5s, particularly babies and toddlers, if I'm completely honest. I was meeting with a lot of people from our church who had become pregnant during the pandemic, who had felt really isolated in terms of not being able to go to any antenatal classes, lots of whom who were really processing quite traumatic experiences of childbirth where their partners were not with them. And then coming out, and many of whom the grandparents hadn't met the baby for 6 months because of travel restrictions imposed. And I felt very significantly like this was a generation of people for whom their introduction to parenting, their introduction to what it was like to become a family was unique to anything else and a really isolating journey to be on. I think becoming a parent can be isolating anyway, and then doing it in a situation that is completely unnatural without a lot of support and backing is has the potential to be quite traumatic. And as we came out of the pandemic, the government in the third lockdown made exceptions for parents of under ones, which meant that they could meet together far earlier than any of the rest of us could meet. And so I felt like I felt a real call that actually, if the government was enabling this, then the church needs to respond to this. And so before we were able to open anything else up in the building, I was able to open a group for mums and under ones to gather together, people who had been on a similar journey together. I was quite explicit in the fact that I wanted this group to have a spiritual content. I felt like we were all thirsty for some feeding. And so I was quite explicit in the invitation to this, that it will be a space for you to gather with people who understand your journey, to form a community, support one another, and that we would also be looking at what it looks like to have a relationship with God and to bring that relationship with God to our babies and toddlers. And to be honest, there was no other resources out there that were offering what the babies and toddlers resource was offering. So that's why we chose to look at that.
So how did you use them?
So we formed our group, which I'm going to say is called Refresh, but is nothing to do with the last group. Clearly, God is doing something with wanting to refresh parents. So we formed our group of all mums and under ones, and we spent maybe 3 or 4 weeks just getting to know each other and creating an atmosphere where we formed a community. When they signed up for the group, they wanted to be a part of it because we were only allowed to meet with 12 people together in our building, because that was the safe number, so everyone had to sign up and get a space. We gave them a book and a little welcome pack into the group, and then after we formed a community, we started looking at the bite-sized videos, and we did one a week.
1 week, one a week.
We did one a week.
Oh, I thought it was 1 week. So
one a week. So one video each week for 5 weeks.
Talk me through a session.
So a session. So we'll come in and we will. My thing is, I want to serve parents because I feel like they spend their day putting their needs aside to serve the babies and children that are in their care. And so for me, it was really important that we had comfortable sofas. It was really important that we had really good coffee, like not bad coffee, good coffee, and homemade cake, and being able to baking the night before for me was a really important part of the ministry that I had to those mums that were attending. I felt like I was putting a lot of love into baking, whether it tasted good or not. So you'd come in and we would have good quality toys, sofas, coffee, cake, and we would just share together for about half an hour of just what our lives were doing and creating community. Then, and this is probably the most practical point I've got, I asked the mums to either feed their babies, or if they were older than 6 months old, I'd bring out a little toddler-friendly snack and we'd have a little row of high chairs. The bite-sized videos are really short, they're only 5, 6, 7 minutes, but within that time, 12 babies can make a lot of noise, unless their mouths are full, in which case they make less noise. And so for those 5 or 6 minutes of the session, we encourage the mums to feed babies, either in a high chair with a bottle or breastfeed. Now, that was a really good opportunity for us to watch the videos. However, what happens once you've fed babies is they get very windy, and that's when the crying starts. So you've fed the babies, you've watched the videos, and now you want the quiet contemplation and everyone's got wind. So you take a 10-minute break for burping. It's super practical, but at that point, you refeed the mums. So at that point, the second round of cake came round, and the opportunity for some of the Refresh team to take the babies and burp them for the parents was also offered. And then we started discussion. So we used the discussion points from the video, from the handout sheet. So we would use those discussion points and any further discussions. Interestingly, I had a plan in my head about where the discussions would lead, and they didn't. I think the parents had formed such a community that they felt really more able to lead the discussions in the direction they needed them to go at the time. So I think having flexibility and recognising that what Parenting for Faith do so brilliantly is create launch pads. They don't define exactly where conversations should go because they recognise that it's everybody's journey and everyone is unique. But what they do is create these launch pads for discussion. And so very naturally, the parents would just go off into their own discussion groups. Now, I'm not going to pretend like some days it didn't all go downhill with 6 screaming babies. That was almost impossible. But at that point, I feel as well, I've been a parent in a group where you feel like you need to make your baby be quiet. And I never wanted to be the person that put that thought into somebody's mind. So there was always this caveat of, we're going to do this for as long as the babies are happy. And when they're not, we stop. And we'll pick it up again next week, or we'll do it the week after. I think the benefit we had in that group was that it was a group that was going to be ongoing. So actually we have dipped back into the videos, ones that we maybe didn't have such a great week on. We've dipped in and out of them. But yeah, that's how we ran the course.
Brilliant. And of course, little plug at the moment, you could also direct a parent to watch it at home on their own, because anybody can access the videos off the website. So that's always a bit of a handy trick if somebody's baby maybe did scream.
Yes, and they all have a copy of the book when they arrived. So we just bought this for everyone that came to the group. And actually this now goes into all of our new mum packs. Whenever somebody in church or connected to church has a baby, they get one of these in their pack. I think the other thing I would say is that predominantly the mums that joined this group were in some way already connected to church, so there was a relationship already there. However, 2 of them were people who were connected in church because they'd attended an Alpha course, not because they were regular church tenders or had made any decision about faith. And I think they still found it accessible. In fact, I know they still found it accessible.
Yeah, so did your parents, could you just kind of like tell us 1 or 2 stories about how parents responded to the material, what difference it made to them?
Yeah, I think I'll share one story about a mum who there's a moment in the video where they talk about how do you introduce God to your child, how do you show God to your baby, and this mum was actually a mum of 4 children and attended this with her 4th baby, who she'd had in quite difficult circumstances, so she came as a single mum, and she said, I just don't even know, I don't know how to talk about God because I'm a little bit angry with God, and I don't really know where my relationship with God is. And there's a line in the video where Anna says, God is love. When you love your baby, you show your baby God. That's all you need to do. And at that moment in the video, I could see she burst into tears and she said, are you telling me that all I need to do is love my baby and God is in that? And it was an incredible moment where, in the busyness of parenting, in the desire, I think, for people to do more and be perfect, actually little things where you take it and you take it away from everything else and everything that society has made it or the church inadvertently has made it, and you bring it down to the grassroots of you are this child's mother. If God is love and love is God, when you love your baby, you show them God. Yeah, it was special.
So
I'm not going to cry, right? No.
that course was in person, I think.
That course was in person.
Have you run it on Zoom, or do you think it would work on Zoom?
So I haven't run the Babies and Toddlers course on Zoom, but I am currently running the Parenting for Faith main course on Zoom, and I have 3 or 4 parents that are doing that course with under 3s. And so what we're doing at the moment is each time we're doing a session with a key tool from the Parenting for Faith course, I'm emailing them the discussion notes and the link to the bite-sized videos so they can, if they want to unpack it slightly more about what it looks like to do that with under 3s, they can. And they're also in a breakout room together. We are very fortunate at Woody's to have a a family minister whose children's minister whose sole responsibility is responsibility for under fives, which is a blessed position, and she is running the breakout room for those people, and she's watched all the bite-sized video courses as well. So in doing the discussions from the main Parenting for Faith course, she's bringing in the things from the bite-sized video. Definitely, I think it would work on Zoom, and the joy of Zoom for me and running the Parenting for Faith courses on Zoom has been that both parents are more able to attend without the cost of a babysitter. And yes, I think the only thing I would say about Zoom is I am Zoom fatigued after an hour. You guys are doing very well all morning. I'm done after an hour on Zoom, so short and sweet.
How long would you say a session would be, including the kind of like, hey, everybody, welcome, come get your coffee, to we've done this now and we can chat and go home? Would it be an hour, a bit less?
Yeah, I think we probably aim for about 45 minutes of
It's very doable. Yeah.
Discussion time. I find, I don't know if you guys find it with the groups you currently run, I can't get them to leave. Yeah, so we open the doors at 10. We aim to start whatever discussion starting point we're doing at sort of 10:30. We finish at 11:15. They leave at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, and hopefully helped you clear up in the meanwhile.
They just don't go.
Can't always do that.
But that's fine. And the other thing that we found actually is that when we started the group, we did the course. We then started a WhatsApp group for those that wanted to discuss more about the course. And they have just created their own community. They now meet up outside of anything I organise and go to soft play together. And I wish very much that I had a baby to join them.
Yeah. So this is now the unashamed plug. We found recently we've been experimenting with running courses online for people to join, and Ruth will be hosting and running a Parenting for Faith Babies and Toddlers course starting on June the 9th, I believe.
Yes.
So if you want to know more about that, it's on the website. We can send you a link afterwards. You can join in two ways, and this is something we did for the teens course we ran last autumn. It worked really well. So if you've got parents or in your church you think might like to come, they can book themselves a ticket, or you could book yourself a ticket, because it would be a fantastic way to actually see what the course is like and how it's used before you decide if you're going to use it in your context. So you can come as an individual, or for not too much more, I think it equates to 3 people's price, you can sign up as a church host, and then you can invite unlimited numbers of people from your church. So you could sign up as a church host and invite 10 or 15 of your toddler parents to come along, and you get to share, it's online, so you get to share the Zoom link with them. And then what we do is, if you are a church group, you get your own breakout room. So when it comes to discussion time, you are hosting your own breakout room. If you're an individual, we put you into breakout rooms with other people. So if you're interested in seeing the course from the inside out, you can come along and join, either as an individual to have a good look around and see what it looks and feels like, or you can come as a church and bring other people with you. And if you are there as a church host, you get a 25% discount, I believe, on the book, which you can then hand out to the people who are coming. You don't need to have the book to do the course. There's no handbook per se for participants. It would just be a gift that you could give them. A question from Paula for Ruth. Do you feed these families into a parent and toddler group as the babies start walking, turning 1-year-old? Are you still meeting as a group? So what's happened to these families?
I can't get them to leave, both time-wise and age-wise. So they are now not a group of mums and under ones. They are a group of mums who have no longer got under ones. But we did then in September we were able to launch our full toddler group, which a lot of them attend. And the relaunch of toddlers was, we were able to reframe our toddler group in a more explicit way about who we are and why we do what we do. And so we relaunched our toddler group in September, and most of these parents go to both groups now.
Okay, so it feels like your parents in the original course have kind of formed their own little journeying group.
Yes, and
come on
I
that
said
journey
to
together.
them, we had a little debrief, and I said, listen, we've been doing this for a year now. All of your babies are over 1. Should we reassess what the need is? And they said, Ruth, I think we're a home group now, aren't we? And I thought, I think maybe you are.
I think maybe you are. So you kind of launched them into the wild and off they've gone.
Yeah.
So we've only got a few minutes left. So if you've got any more questions, do please put them in the chat. Oh, will you start a new group for new mums?
Now, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to siphon off the old ones, and they're going to meet at the same time in a second room, and I'm going to bring in a new cohort. So we're going to have the first half an hour together, so they'll get to meet some people that have already done the course. Then the ones with the walkers can go off into something slightly more activity for them, and I'll keep a little group of the new mums. So that is the plan. I just need people to have more babies.
Would you now include dads, etc., or is it just for mums?
We're currently just doing mums, and I am not sure how okay I am with it.
Is that a deliberate choice, or just because you're doing it during the day and there
I
are?
think it's a deliberate choice in order to try and create a community that was safe. And that's not saying by having mixed sexes that it's not safe, but there was something about being more vulnerable in a group of women that I felt. Our toddler group has a lot of dads that go to it. But I am considering running the babies and toddlers course. Well, not me. I'm considering trying to find a gentleman to run the babies and toddlers course for dads. And doing that specifically in the evening.
Leonie's asked, will the course be recorded on the 9th? You can't attend but is interested. No, I don't think it will be because it's over 5 weeks. So, but you can see all the material on the website and you can look at all the videos, and so you can still see everything that's going to be shared. So they are about to chuck us out. So you've got like a minute and a half. But thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Ruth, for sharing. Again, any questions, ping them off to me at Parenting for Faith, at parentingforfaith.org, I think, at brf.co.org.uk. The email address you got your link from will do work beautifully, and I can pass those on to Ruth, and we can do our very best to help you, particularly if you do decide to run a course. If you register it with us, we will add you to our prayer calendar. So every course that we know about, we ask for prayer points and we stick it on a calendar, and the team pray for you on the days you're running the course and in and around that time as well. So do let us know when you're running a course, because we love to add you to the calendar. And as ever, any questions, just come to us and we will do our very best to answer. So I think we're about to be chucked out. If you'd like to anticipate that and not be kicked out, but choose to leave, you can. And I'm going to stop the recording now and see you on the other side.